The following has been a Shirt Off Your Back production. ShirtOffYourBackAZ.com. Welcome to the Shirt Off Your Back podcast, where we fight fire with fire. I didn't go with the West Side Savage Daddies, but I was tempted to, but it might be a little bit too much of a niche inside joke for people to get. So I have two firefighters with me, Matt and Travis.
Hi.
Guys, go ahead and say hi.
Hey.
Hey, they're too macho for podcasts, but so this is an idea I've had for a little while. Wanted to have kind of what I'm trying to do with this podcast, give you guys sort of an overall idea of what I'm trying to do with this. Is have people in the community, people in the state, around the country or whatever, people that are just doing cool, noble, fun, creative, worthwhile things. You guys are firefighters. I think that's a pretty noble profession. It's probably romanticized a little bit, and almost, I don't know if people have like a clear picture of what you guys do every day. So if you guys want to just introduce yourselves, tell the audience of, I don't know, 50 people, however many people are going to listen to this, tell the audience about yourself, about yourselves, where you're at in life.
I'm Travis Sanders, and I've been a fireman for 11 years now. Married, 2 kids, 9 and 7.
For Phoenix, right?
Yeah,
Phoenix
I work for
Firefighter.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Matthew Jonovich. I've been with the Phoenix Fire Department for 8 years, and I got my first little boy on the way. Isaac will be here in about a month.
Any day.
Yeah,
Real soon.
I know. I'm trying to see how I can pack it. I can try to get everything done before he comes. So I think we're not that far away. My wife will tell you very different.
Yeah, even if that's like what everybody's like, are you ready? And you're like, I don't know. How do you ever really know if you're ready to have kids, you know?
No, you don't.
1, you're not.
Yeah.
Ever.
2, like, how do you ever really know that you're ready, you know?
Yeah.
So take me through kind of the day in the life of a firefighter, your average shift. I know every day is not the same. Some days are better, some days are worse than others, but what does a typical day or a typical shift or multiple shifts? I know you guys work like, what, 4 on and 2 off or something, or 3 off, or what?
Phoenix is 24 hours on and 48 hours off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does a day in the life of a firefighter look like?
Well, it probably depends what shift you're on too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We probably have to start there, because my
Sure.
day on B shift is probably going to be a lot different than his day on C shift.
Right.
Okay.
Like, I clean a lot, but he goes straight to break. So
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as we show up, we're on break.
So C shift is basically overnight?
No. So there's 3 shifts. There's A shift. They are the superheroes.
They wear their capes to work.
They wear their capes to work. They're
Okay.
amazing. And then B shift really goes the other direction. So they try not to show up when they show up.
So known as knuckle drag.
What do those hours look like?
Well, it's
8 a.m. to
8
8 a.m. the next day.
Yeah, so full 24 hours, and then with 48 hours off.
Mhm.
So if you're showing up at 8 a.m. though, that's, you're giving terrible relief. Normally guys try to show up around like 7:30 in the morning. So my day normally starts, especially if I'm going to go to work and I was off the day before, wake up early, I'll go to the gym and work out, and then I'll head to work, because, with our job, you just never know. I mean, you don't know when you're going to eat. You don't know if you're taking a shower and, you get, a fire on the toilet. So for me, obviously staying in shape is something that we got to do as firefighters. So I don't like to be interrupted. It kind of helps set my day off. So I do that first. So I'm a rover, so I can work anywhere in the valley, but normally I always work in the north side. So I'll call in 6:15 in the morning. Where am I going? And then I'll, head that way. when I get there, you just check out your gear, make sure everything's good to go, check out the truck, say hi to the guys. And then normally we might clean,
Okay.
depending on, but and it's something I've kept with me since day one is I don't lax when it comes to my equipment that I have, my
Sure.
turnouts. And then the same thing with checking off the truck, because that literally is, my turnouts are my lifesaver. If I don't know my tools, where they're at, and making sure that everything's properly stocked, everything's ready to go. Then when because we do have real emergencies. Stuff has to happen right now.
Yeah.
So if it's not ready to go or something wasn't connected that was supposed to be, who's that going to look bad on? Who's, and it could, it's not just looking bad. It's also going to make a difference. So,
yeah.
But that's kind of my typical morning.
Yeah, mine's pretty similar. I have a spot so I don't have to call in the morning and find out where I'm going.
Okay.
I just show up to my station, and since it is my station, I have a little more responsibilities there. The guys coming in, I let them know kind of how the day is going to go. If they are rovers, like
okay,
who's taking the plug today, who's pulling the line today.
Sort of like a team lead kind of
yeah. I'm
position.
the senior fireman on the truck, so
okay,
it falls on me. The captain is in charge of it, but he relies on me to make sure the other firefighters were running and together and doing the same job, and we're on the same page. So, but yeah, checking off my gear, like Matt said, it's how I stay alive in a bad situation, and then checking off all the equipment on the truck so that when we need something, it's ready to be used.
Yeah,
and so we just do a good job. We're called professional firefighters, and part of that professionalism means that we have to be ready to do the job whenever it happens.
What does how romanticized or how far-fetched or exaggerated are like movies when you see firefighters in movies and they're fighting fires and stuff like that, and it's just like one fire after another, and rescuing kittens and babies, and I know that stuff. I know that stuff probably.
Chicago fire is absolutely true.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that is very true.
Like I know that stuff probably happens to some degree, but what does your day look like as far as like after you get there, after you find out where you're going, after you check out all your gear, after you may or may not clean? It's not like you
just like I said, depends what shift you're on.
It's not necessarily like you're sitting around and waiting for an emergency, right?
No. We have a pretty busy day. So our day starts off checking off everything, getting together as a crew, making sure we're on the same page.
Yep.
But then from then on, we're working out together because it's morning. So that's how our days are usually busy in the mornings. So we either work out, we go shopping, pick up all the food we're going to cook for that shift. Depending on what station you're at, you rotate schedules on cooking. So
yeah, and I've seen firefighters like out and about, like out to lunch and shopping, and then all of a sudden they just drop their stuff and run out.
Yeah,
because they have an emergency they have to respond to.
We're always on call, so I think that's something that some people don't understand is that while we're shopping, while we're going to the gym, all those activities that we do when I take you through my day, those are always being interrupted.
Yeah.
So I don't include the calls into that because I don't know when they're going to happen.
Right.
You just have to be able to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not see the station all morning. Morning. Sometimes you're just going to another one,
like right when you show up.
Yeah, it's so and that's why like showing up early is important, but also being like ready to go.
Yeah, ready to work when you get there.
Because you just don't know. Or you could have the whole morning, you get a good workout in, you shop, you're not interrupted, you eat chow, and so you really, but as far as being ready, it doesn't, I mean, how many times have you not eaten, like, we've eaten lunch we just did the other day, we ate lunch at 4:00.
Okay.
Because we were busy.
If you had to put a percentage on it, what percentage would you say is like we had a good day, we had a couple calls, but we had time to kind of clean and eat and everything and do what we needed to do, and then other days where it was just like chaos and we got nothing done and we were just on call after call? Is it like 50-50, 60-40?
I feel like
it probably depends on the shift again.
We used to have more days that you could kind of, because the call volume's increasing every year. It's going up more and more. And we aren't building new fire stations to keep up with that at all.
We've only built one since I've been on, I think. Only 155.
That's interesting.
Actually built a new station. We've had like 58 got rebuilt. But I mean, that was, I'm trying to think of new stations. You think, were you on when 56 came in, or?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so how many, what's the percentage that I'd feel like I wasn't busy today?
Yeah, if you just had to generalize it, I mean, I know that's probably hard to do.
Maybe 20%.
And it's tough because we normally work at busier stations too.
Okay.
So, the average, I think what 18, 7, how many calls do they average a day?
I think it's 15 each.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
So you think about every call, just on average, maybe takes 45 minutes to get from actual, off the truck, to get on the truck, drive the call, run the call, and then come back because you might have to go to the hospital, maybe an average 45 minutes. So if you're thinking about, even if it was 12, you're talking about 12 hours where you're not being able to sleep, not able to shower, bathe. I mean, I don't know. But then you have other stations that you might only have maybe 3 calls a shift, 3 or 4.
It's interesting. They haven't built any new stations as quickly as the Valley is growing and as much as it's expanding, which explains why the call volume has gone up. Obviously, there's just more people living here.
Yeah.
Now, sort of the generalized question, I guess, is how often are you actually fighting fires, putting fires out? I guess, explain to people what you actually do. You guys don't just fight fires. There's
firefighting is a very small percentage of what we actually do.
10%, 15%.
Yeah, maybe 10. But then you even break that down farther.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a good working fire, we're actually going to be doing some work. I'd say less than that. But we go on check smoke, check electrical, barbecue out of control, dryer fire, these different that would probably go under the umbrella.
Yeah.
So that number probably gets pushed up a little bit more of a percentage. But actual good working fire where you're getting dispatched to doing work
once a year.
Oh, well, we get them more than that.
Okay.
Okay. But because then on a ladder we'll get more because we'll get there's less ladders, so you get dispatched to more. So normally that's where I've spent a lot of my time, especially this last year. But yeah, so a lot smaller than probably what you'll see on TV. And when you see on TV, they'll we wear our SCBAs. We're fully turned out. We're not, going in there. Hey, it's a very what people probably have in their mind and what actually happens inside. I mean, we don't even know where the heck we're going sometimes in the fire because it's pitch black. You can't see anything, especially if you start putting water on it. It's really hard to see because then so the best time is almost
smoke.
Well, it's kind of free burning and getting low and seeing it because that's your only chance that you might see somebody even alive. I mean, if we can hardly be in there with our turnouts on, everybody's dead. You know what I mean? They're dead in there. If we're having now in any of that room, now there's a chance that it hasn't gone to the back part of the room where you could have somebody still be alive. But I mean, and that's the reason why Phoenix is. I mean, we're known as a fast, aggressive. We're always offensive until we're defensive.
Okay. Yeah, you guys do a lot of wellness checks and stuff like that too, right? As far as
the medical side of it, you're talking about?
Sure, yeah. That's kind of what I wanted
to talk about the majority.
That's kind of what I wanted to get into because I know you guys do a lot of EMT work and medical stuff and wellness checks. I knew a retired police chief, and he said he told me a story. He's like one of the I forget the term he used. He didn't say weird, but he said one of the most he said it was early on in my career. And he said, I kind of realized what this job was really kind of about. They went and did a wellness check on an older lady who it was the granddaughter or the daughter called and said, hey, I was supposed to have lunch with my grandma and I can't get a hold of her. We were supposed to meet at 12 and it's 4:30. I can't get a hold of her. I don't know where she's at. I have no way of getting to her house. Can you go by her house and just do a wellness check? So they go on the wellness check. They knock on the door. No answer. I don't know if he was supposed to or not, but he said the door is unlocked. We went in the house. Whether they're supposed to do that or not, I don't know. Because you never know what's behind the closed door, I guess. But he goes in and found her on the toilet. And she just couldn't get off the toilet. Sure, her back hurt. Her legs hurt.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we helped this old lady off the toilet and cleaned her up and tried to preserve as much dignity, for her as we could, because she's a human being, you know. But he was like, that's when I kind of realized, like, this job is very much about community service and very much about just serving everybody, good, bad, and ugly. And as much as it is about putting out fires, you know.
Yeah.
So
we are like the catch-all. So when people don't know what to do and don't know how to take care of a situation, they call us to do it. So yeah, we take care of problems. We're just problem solvers.
Yeah,
that's the best way, and that's what I always was told. Like when I first got my father, he's also in the fire department. He actually just retired back in June.
Yeah,
he was on for over 35 years. That's why I was almost curious to see if he'd want to come on and do this podcast.
Yeah, it'd be good to have him on. It'd be interesting.
You know, so I kind of grew up with it. And my brother, he's also on the fire department too. Actually, I've been working with him. But problem solving is definitely what we do. It's firefighting is what might be on, firefighter might be on our shirt, but problem solving is really what we do. Because it doesn't matter. I mean, one of them, these two ladies were fighting, and then one of them threw the other bag up in the tree, and we had to go retrieve a bag after a fight.
That seems right.
We got called out for a medical
like a purse, like a handbag.
Yes, and it was. And I've had a kitty cat extrication, where I've had to extricate a kitty cat out of a metal U-Haul van that got stuck. There's so many weird saving. I mean, I could probably just go on animal calls. I'm sure you could too.
I appreciate the fact that you're a grown man and a firefighter, and you called it a kitty cat.
Yeah, I was going to point that
cute.
out too. Yeah. I keep saying that, please.
I know. I'm gonna keep on rolling with that. My little kitty cat.
Kitty cat.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of the stereotypical rescuing a kitten out of a tree, you know.
Yeah, probably because I was just watching Wedding Crashers and they said kitty cat.
Okay.
That could be it's in my head, but as far as going back to the call, you just don't. That's what we're really doing. And I mean, a lot of those calls that you talked about where people just they can't keep, because there's a transition where you go, I can take care of myself, to now I can no longer take care of myself. Yeah. And that transition period is where they're calling us, right? Now all of a sudden, hey, mom can no longer drive. She can no longer take care of herself. Family's not around to take care of her. She doesn't have any money saved up. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And eventually, sometimes we see them go downhill. We try to hook them up with as many resources as possible. Yeah. But sometimes people are just kind of stuck too. And then that's start becoming irregulars.
Yeah. So how do they determine, you call 911, how do they determine who goes out, who gets dispatched? If it's a fire, obviously they're going to dispatch to the fire department first. But as far as if it's an accident, I don't know if you guys can speak to how that process works. Like if there's a car accident, you see firefighters and EMTs at the scenes of car accidents too. How much does that play in? Like how often is that part of your day? And what does that dispatch process look like? Like a call comes in for a car accident, who shows up first?
So the way our dispatch system works is PD always gets the call first, and then they'll transfer it to fire if they don't have anyone to send or if they think they don't need to go on it. So then it goes to our dispatch center, and our dispatch center, we work off mutual aid. So it doesn't matter if it's Glendale, Peoria, Phoenix, Mesa, any of those cities, the closest unit to that incident goes.
Okay.
So we routinely run calls in Glendale or in Scottsdale.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just to get the service there,
which kind of makes sense,
quickly as possible.
Which kind of makes sense the way all the cities in the valley are kind of connected. It's not like, well, no, that fire's in Glendale, we can't go. To
regular people, it does make sense. To the fire service, it's actually pretty innovative. We were the first
to do mutual aid.
To do the mutual aid system. I don't even know how many years ago it started, but
I don't know either. But it's been a long time.
Well before my time. But other cities and agencies throughout the nation and the world have come to observe our mutual aid system to figure out how we do this, because
that's really cool.
Because people want to take care of their own cities, and they don't want other people doing it for them. And also other cities don't want to fund taking care of somebody else's city, right? So if we're always servicing Glendale, we're like, well, Glendale needs to pay for their stuff.
Yeah.
And so you have that bickering that starts. But
I think, I remember how it first started. They said it was on, it was like the Glendale, Phoenix, like the border, and the house was, on fire on the Glendale side. and the closest Glendale truck was on another call, and so you have the Phoenix to be the next closest one, and then we're not dispatched to go on to it, you know. But yeah, if one, because then I think that's where you probably started getting to a little bit of the political side and money, because you think about it, it costs money to run trucks.
Sure.
Trucks are expensive, employees are expensive, supplies are expensive. So when you call 911, you don't get a bill at the end. You know, we don't say, okay, swipe your credit card, right?
Right.
So if you're continually running to other cities, you know, and I know that Phoenix is having a little problem with that with Scottsdale and one of their trucks. They're moving trucks. So now Phoenix, a lot of their calls, they're having to run into Scottsdale, run into Scottsdale. Well, you know, people look at numbers.
Yeah.
People, you know, so we want it, because really, like, to me, it comes down, you know, to how we best serve our, you know, I mean, how do we best serve our, you know, our citizens of Phoenix? We want to get there as fast as possible. But, you know, then you have the whole, you know, probably political side of it too, and you want to try to make things even.
Yeah. And it's very glamorized and kind of romanticized, like being a firefighter. And you see TV shows and movies, and people have this kind of idea of what they think you guys do, but I don't think the average person doesn't really know.
Yeah.
You know, if you would tell the average,
messy.
Huh?
It's a pretty messy job.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't feel glorious doing some of the stuff you have to do.
Right. And that's most public service jobs. You don't really feel glorious until you work in like DC, and then, you know, you're elite and you can do whatever you want.
Right.
What kind of, speaking of that, it's not a glorious job. It's a messy job. How much of it, it's got to be hard to keep work and home separate sometimes, or are you guys pretty good at that? Pretty good at saying, okay, I'm home now. I kind of need to switch work off and put the last 24 hours behind me. Is that something you guys have struggled with at different times in your lives? Is it something you struggle with currently? Is it an ongoing struggle? What does that look like for you guys?
I can't speak to how Matt's done it. We've all had to deal with calls that are pretty challenging. You know, like the boyfriend beating the girlfriend's son to death. You know, that's a hard one to swallow and take home and forget about. You know, so you try to handle it as best you can, and we have a lot of services that really help us with that too,
like employee assistance programs,
and work through challenging calls. But my family is a huge support system to me, and through my church as well. You know, just the friendships I have there I'm able to vent and get rid of that. But I think Matt would agree with me. The crew that you're with, they're the best resources you have, because you went through the same experience together. And when you go through that together, you can vent together, you can work it out together, through joking and just getting your mind off of it, and getting that out of your head.
Is there much of a stigma with, I can't imagine there is, but there might still be a little one, is much of a stigma with like, hey, like these last couple calls or these last couple weeks have been really, really hard on me. I need to go use some of that employee assistance. I need to go see a counselor or a therapist or whatever. Or generally are firefighters pretty supportive of one another in that regard?
Well, there's definitely the support is there. But this is, and the culture's kind of changed a little bit, but it was very, hey, we're men here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're you know, there is no weakness.
Well, there's plenty of women. There's plenty of women that join the fire department now too. So that's something that's changed over the last decade or two.
But normally culture, it takes a while for culture to change. And the fire service is no different. So even though women have been in this, 50, 60 plus years, it's still, because who were even hired, the women that we were hiring probably even back then were probably okay being a little bit more rough, or being around men, being used to men and women, different humor, just different things, how you can. So, but as far as difficult calls go, like when you talked about the boyfriend beating up the kid, we had several of those. Also, there was one that we had. It was SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome, 6-month-old, and at the time, my nephew was also 6 months. I'm doing chest compressions on him, and all I can think about is, man, this is the same. Actually, within the first week that I was on the fire department on probation, we went on a code. A code, basically, they're dead, and we're going to try to bring them back to life. And she looked just like my mom. Like her face, she was bigger than my mom, but she looked just. I've never done a chest. I'm like, God, this is so weird.
Yeah.
But if and he mentioned a little bit about, if I didn't have the faith that I had, I don't, those would probably bother me a lot more. If I didn't have that in my life, those calls probably would stick with me longer. But it's also, I think, realizing, hey, this is our job. You have a job to do. When I was doing chest compressions, I'm still thinking about, this is my job. I think you turn into a little bit different mode. And when I get home, the only time I ever get affected is, lack of sleep, not really the calls.
Okay.
Because, I don't know. It's just probably my faith too.
Yeah. I mean, that's my hat's off to you guys. 'Cause I know that would affect me a lot. Like I would have a really hard time kind of switching off and switching on, and the lack of sleep, of course, would bother me. But though I know myself, I know like those kinds of calls would stick with me, and they would they would mess my head up for sure. Yeah. I don't know. One experience I had with, well, I shouldn't say one, but the biggest one that sticks out in my mind was I had a guy I was working with. He was an older gentleman, pretty heavy set, and he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was an alcoholic, but I know he drank quite a bit. I mean, he talked a lot about whiskey and stuff, and that's a good sipping whiskey, and that's a really good bourbon. And, I'm just like, okay, I have a beer like once or twice a month, but, he was a really good guy. And he ended up having, I believe he ended up having a brain aneurysm, like right in front of me. And it was literally like you and I were just sitting here talking, and I turned around and grabbed a tool off the back of his van and heard this crash. And I turned around and he's laying face down on the ground. And I did CPR, I did chest compressions as much as I've been trained to do, and called 911. I could hear, sirens almost right away. And the firefighters and, the EMTs showed up, and they started working on him, and they were like, hey, they were like, are you okay? And, I said, yeah, I'm all right. I just wish I could have done more. And they're like, they looked at me and they were like, there's nothing more you could have done. They're like, it was routine for them because they're like, we've seen this before. They're like, he's gone. Like they knew pretty much right away. Like there's nothing more you could have done. And you could tell everything was very systematic, and everything was very pre-planned, and everything was very, kind of by the book. They knew what they were doing. And even then they were like, hey, there's nothing you could have done. So that gave me a little bit of peace of mind, but I still see that. I still think about that guy every day. And I can still see his face,
Right.
And that only happened to me once. So I'm like, I can't imagine doing that a couple times a week or a couple times a month or whatever,
Honestly, there's not to like belittle any of the serious tragedies that people go through, but I don't know, for me, like, it's almost like a switch. Like I go to work, take care of the call. And when we're leaving, almost before we even get back to the station, I forgot everything what we were doing. Like you know what I'm talking about.
I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about.
Like I'm not going to, I don't know if it takes time to do that, but like pretty quickly you adapt to this culture where like you can't hold on to these things because you have to go to the next call at 100%. So you don't have time to hang on to anything that you just did. That's over. It's done. You did everything you could, and now you got to move on to the next one. So a lot of times I'll come home, or I'll have friends ask me like, hey, what's some crazy stuff you've had to deal with? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't even think of any.
Well, one, probably
like they're gone. I deleted them out of my mind.
And two, you probably don't necessarily want to.
Yeah. Well, you said I have calls that stand, like I can.
There's certain ones that stand out.
That really, we delivered it was 17-week-old fetus, and it was we got there and I thought it was dead. It was just basically in a towel, and all of a sudden you see the little baby move. And so on that one, the one that probably sticks with me is we transported the baby and mother. My medic, Andrew Freeman, was keeping the heartbeat of the kid, and I was putting blow-by oxygen by it, and just like, oh my gosh, we're going to the hospital. Hopefully, we're trying to save this little, because you can kind of make it out like a 17-week-old.
Yeah.
And when we got there, when we got to Thunderbird, they put it basically like in a box, and that was it. I'm like, at the time I forgot about the whole, like 20 weeks, they say it's not viable for life. It's just not developed enough. I'm like, man, we just did this whole thing and now it's dead. And the mom was like a drug addict that brought on, you know, like, so that like, so there's probably like a few calls to me that stand out, but did I go home and like, you know,
right.
Did it change anything with me? No, just, I don't know. I know what I'm getting into. And I know that, you know, kind of, I don't know. It's God's plan is better than mine. So whatever happens here on this life, I can only, this is my view. I can only see this much of the world. It's only through my lens. So when I take that into account, why, you know, why things happen, obviously there was, you know, a reason behind it.
And the protocol on that is you have to do something, right? You can't just show up and be like, the baby's not going to live. Like you can't, you have to do something, right? Because it was interesting. Those firefighters told me they kind of like, they worked and they did CPR and they used the defibrillators and all that, but they pretty much told me, they're like, he's gone. Like there's nothing more you could have done. So even though they knew he was gone, they still did their job, you know, and tried to do the best they could to revive him or, you know, bring him back, you know? So what is, I don't know. What does protocol look on something like that? Where, like you said, it's a 17-week-old fetus
that, you know,
and you're kind of like, okay, it's like 100 to 1 that we're going to help this baby start, but you still have to do something, right? I mean,
I was going to say, we have the obvious signs, rigor, pool, like where the lividity, where the blood pools, decapitation. So there is some like signs that, hey, there is nothing that we can do. But I think a lot of times we kind of keep that same mindset, offensive until it's defensive. If we feel like there's a chance to save, because man, we've gone on some horrific car accidents. Yeah. Well, we've been, you know, we're at the, you know, trauma codes and we end up, you know, we were able to bring them back. I mean, or how many times someone's been down, we've been able to bring them. So like, I think it's, you stay offensive until it's not. And, you know, and we'll try, I mean, we've transported dead people before, sometimes just for the family. You know, we're like, you know, hey, it's really close, but we know it's probably not. But how would that look if we get there and we don't do anything? Right. Now, sometimes it's just better to do it. Sometimes maybe for the family's sake, you know, we've done that before too. You know, just because you think about it, just think about how when your friend went down, right? Yeah. Just imagine if that's your kid, and like, hey, I called 911. You guys need help. You guys. So there's been some times that it's been very, man, I'm almost uncomfortable being in here, working in here because, you know, tension's very high, but that's where professionalism, keeping a calm manner, you know, explaining what you're doing, you know, trying to bring it back down. But
thankfully we do work as a team and we're given a lot of liberty to make choices in the situations, in the decisions and the situations that we're in, because we're in the field. We're not in a sterile environment like a hospital. So they just go by the book. This is how we're going to do it. And we don't get to do that all the time. Sometimes there's people running around with guns. Sometimes there's intense family members that are shouting and yelling and pulling on us. And so we need to be able to make accurate judgment calls in those situations. So
they're in the back of the house. How are we going to get this person out? It's a hoarder house. Right. And there's so much stuff. How are we going to get it? Maybe we got to get out this window. Are we going to use a board? Are we not? Are we going to carry out? Are we going to, So that's why really when I say it's problem solving, that's all we try to do. What is the best way that we're going to solve this problem?
Yeah. And of course we always try, like we'll give everybody as much chance as we can when it comes to like saving their life. Yeah. So
how much, you know, the typical 9 to 5 employee, you know, they get home and they walk in the door and, oh, hey honey, how was your day? And, you know, oh, well, you know, Bob at the office and that rascal, that knucklehead. Do you guys come home, you guys are both married and, you know, family and, you know, you have a family for all intents and purposes and, you know, a little one on the way. How often do you guys get home and actually talk about work? Or is it kind of like you don't really want to talk about work? It's not, I don't know. You guys both seem like you're pretty good at sort of switching it off and then, okay, I'm home now. I think there's probably obvious things where, okay, I've had a rough shift. I'm going to go home and kind of unwind and try to relax a little bit. I don't know kind of in that same vein, like what do like the divorce rates and stuff look like among firefighters, you know?
High.
They're high.
Yeah.
High.
Yeah. Between sleep deprivation and the stressfulness of our job, just the things we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Being gone
If
24 hours.
Like, honestly, like how Matt was saying, my faith is really what holds me and, you know, lets me know that this is who I am and I'm going to be this person no matter what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then having my wife on the same page as me is huge. So like we were saying earlier, there are certain calls that stand out, but for the majority, when I go home, I'm at home. I'm not at work anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm there for my kids and my wife, and I don't even think about work. But for those calls that do stand out, she's my support system. So I go home and I can tell her about that. And though she doesn't understand fully what I'm going through, she can support me through that. And it's very big benefit, but not everybody has that. A lot of guys on the job, they're either, I don't know, married to women that don't quite understand the culture, or they just don't get it. And so that support it doesn't come from there, and it can be wearing on your marriage.
Or if you start having problems with with either substance abuse too, or you're being alone, you know, so it can almost where you start kind of, you know, that circling the drain. One's kind of, so with us, with having, you know, probably two stable, you know, families, relationship, you know, it's probably, you know, easier, but we've been with plenty of firefighters that have gone the other way, firefighters taking their own lives.
Yeah.
You know, and then you talk about the divorce rate. Yeah. I mean, cause you're gone 24 hours. Like you need a strong wife and supports because you're gone. Hey, little Johnny's got a flu, you know, like, or hey, this has came up. Like your wife is kind of like has to be, you know, a decision maker, you know, and she's also got to be okay sleeping alone for 1/3 of our working life. She's going to be sleeping alone in the bed, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know,
there's another
hopefully
problem right there.
Yeah, because I mean you're gone. I mean just that time being away. I always felt like that's why it's highly encouraged for us to call after dinner time. You know, after dinner time, after everything's cleaned up, most people on the phone. They're calling their families, and they've also tried to make the fire department very family friendly. Hey, your family can come if they can. I mean, a lot of our, you know, holidays they're coming over, and I think that's, you know, I hope that stays. Because, you know, keeping families together, I think you're going to have a lot better chance of, you know, guys staying on the truck and not getting into trouble. Yeah.
In my mind, it would almost have to stay. You couldn't get rid of that culture and keep firefighters for very long, or keep firefighters that are in the right headspace to serve their community and serve people without giving them the opportunity to kind of check in with their family and make it, in my mind anyway, it would almost have to stay that way. The culture, you know, that's tough. It to me, it would have to be hard for me anyway. I know myself, it would be hard to not be able to go home and talk about it. Because no matter how much your wives get it and can be a support system, they haven't experienced it like you guys have, you know? So it's, just being able to use them as like a sounding board and have your wives kind of like actively listen and be like, man, I can't imagine what it's like going through and just be in that support system. That's got to be a hard position for them to be in too, to know that he's going to come home and I don't know what he experienced. I don't know what he went through on those 24 hours on shift necessarily. So
do you talk? I don't even really talk much about, I normally talk more about my other job. I'm normally talking about a real estate. I'm serious. I'm normally talking about like a real estate transaction or this or that or something going on. I really don't even talk that much unless the call like is funny.
That's what I
stands out. Like serious calls, I almost don't even. I mean, like I said, I can only think of a handful that like really stick with me. Otherwise, like I love it when they like will get subpoenaed or whatever. Hey, do you remember this call from a year and a half ago about some, you know, call? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. We run so many of the calls blend together. You know, I can't, you know, some of them are just so some of our calls are just so dumb.
Yeah. I mean,
every call of 911 is an emergency and it's emergency to us, but sometimes they're just really dumb.
They are really dumb.
Well, it's hard though, because you want to be respectful of people and you want you have to kind of respect their humanity. But then I imagine there's got to be some element of like, oh man, I can't.
Hey, when a lady calls you to talk her son down because he had a nightmare, that's dumb.
Yeah. Hey, you know,
Johnny's just scared.
But I can guarantee you that like I can only speak to the Phoenix Fire Department. I can't speak to all fire departments. We will do a great job of being extremely professional on call. Hey, little Johnny, how you doing? You know this, that. You know, to the mom, extremely professional. Hey, you guys have a wonderful night. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to call us back.
Sure.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's one thing that it's always pride myself. You know, and
so
with that. You know.
So you can't necessarily tell them like, hey, ma'am, this isn't really an appropriate call to call the firefighters, or can you kind of instruct them like, hey, maybe call this number next time instead? Or
yeah, we bring that up.
Yes.
Okay.
But we're there, and we're going to try to make a positive impact, even if it is dumb,
even though it's not, you know,
because they live here, they pay taxes, they want us to, you know. We take care of them. So they felt like they needed the fire department, and we're up and we're there to take care of them.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes people I don't think people realize that they're going to get the fire department when they call 911.
No. That's kind of why I asked like how it gets dispatched.
Well, so many people just think I just called. I thought I just wanted an ambulance. Why is the fire truck? They don't understand our service model. Mm-hmm. So normally, when you call 911, they're going to ask you, hey, is this fire? Is this police or fire? Is this a medical call or is this, a police call? And if it's a medical call, then they'll go to our dispatch and then but depending on the call, you might just get a fire engine. And depending on the location. So if you're at a doctor's office and they call, you're getting an ambulance automatically. Sure. Okay. Because they see it as higher, like they're most likely going to transport. But most calls, you're just going to get the fire engine and then we'll decide whether you need that ambulance or not. And if people are asking, if they're like, no, we really want, then we'll do that.
Because you guys can kind of run triage in the meantime. You guys can keep somebody calm and do basic first aid until the ambulance shows up or whatever.
Is this a true? Can you just take your own car and go to the hospital?
Yeah.
But sometimes
or do you need to go to the hospital?
Do you need to go to the hospital? Sometimes people don't know. They'll call us and say, "Well, I don't know. Do I need to go? Do I not need to go?" It's basically you're doing. You're just checking.
Yeah.
But I mean, what that would be a question. What do you think the percentage of the time that we get dispatched that we call an ambo?
Well, on 9:30, I know that we might go on. We go about 15 calls a shift, but we only transport maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, so. Actually transport. And we've put people in the trucks.
Yeah. And
drove them to the hospital before. I've drove the other person's car. Huh. I have my license with me. But I drove the other car to just get them because we really, and this is one thing that I love about Phoenix too, is we really think, what is the best thing for this patient? What is the absolute, how can we really help them? We're not profit driven because you call 911 and you have an engine show up, you don't get a bill. You go to the hospital by an ambulance, you get a bill.
So, a very expensive bill.
Oh yeah, Well, and it's this. Remember, you're thinking about it. This is an emergency ambulance. We only have so many ambulances within our system. So if we're taking you for because your foot's hurt for 3 days, and you were prescribed medication, you're not taking your medication, and we're taking an ambulance out of the system. Now that next closest ambulance that right down the street, that's having a true emergency, that closest ambulance is now gone.
Yeah.
So we are really trying to think, what is the best thing that we can do to help you?
Yeah.
So we're not, since we're not profit driven,
What do you guys do? I don't necessarily want to go back to this, but this just popped into my head. What do you guys do as far as like those other guys or even those other women that you work with that are struggling, their marriage is struggling because of the job, their faith is struggling, their life is struggling. They're struggling with alcoholism or some kind of substance abuse. What do you guys do as far as to build that camaraderie and to build that fellowship and support one another? And obviously I imagine you guys have, you kind of touched on it. You have services like probably employee assistance programs where if you need to see a counselor or something, there's funds and there's resources available for it. But
sure.
I don't know if you've had anybody like on your team that struggled with it and how you've kind of interacted and navigated that.
Yeah, I mean, there's stressful, hard things that we all go through because this is human life. So, but we yeah, we rally around each other a lot. Fire department is often considered and talked about as a family.
Yeah.
Because you spend a third of your life with these guys
Yeah.
and girls, that's a lot of time. It's more than a 40-hour work week amount of time, because you're living like breakfast, lunch, dinner, sleeping, waking up together, so that's life together. And you get to know each other very well, your habits and your likes and your dislikes. And so when people come in and there's stressful things going on in their life, you can usually find out that within a couple seconds of a conversation, because you know that person pretty well.
Yeah.
Almost like if you're walking in the front door at home.
Right.
Hey, what's wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
I just walked in the door. How do you know something's wrong?
But the way you walk, like I know that Katina, when she walks in, if she walks in a certain way, I kind of know something's up or something's not. Kind of these little certain mannerisms, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same deal within the firehouse.
I mean, you guys have a firefighter and a nurse living in the same house, so you guys could probably swap some pretty interesting stories. And Matt and Stacy, same way. You know?
Yeah.
Swap some pretty hilarious and dark and
dark
scary stories sometimes. I'm sure.
I was gonna say, that family aspect is very, very important, and then because if you're having problems, right, we're there for 24 hours, multiple times, like, so so when you do have downtime, I mean, I love that time, because for me, if I can make a difference sometimes I feel like I can make more of a difference that way. Like having a conversation with someone, whether it's their family, whether their finances, whether anything in their life, I feel like sometimes I can have more of an impact than I can on a call where we might be with somebody 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't change that person in 15 minutes as far as if it's like an ongoing problem, but I've been able to help people that are on the job with issues. And that's where I feel like, and that's kind of where I kind of learned a little bit of my calling, and that's all. It's another way we can evangelize, since we are, and you can go deep, like, not everything's surface level. Like, maybe people with their 9 to 5, how deep can you go really? Because you have to get back to work. For us, there might be a few hours that goes by that we don't have a call, and we can have a conversation. We could be having a conversation just like this at the station right now, where we don't just, hey, what do you think about the weather? What do you think? So.
In those emergency calls, you don't really have the time to connect with a person anyway. You're there to do a job. You're there to serve somebody. Even on the non-emergency calls, it's not like you're gonna try to connect with that person anyway, because you're there to do a job, and you that's almost not your job necessarily, connect with that person. But the people that you're spending 24 hours a day with, of course, you're going to connect with that person over time.
Yeah.
And just like you said, they show up on shift and you're like, hey, something's going on with you. And you almost have to fix it then, because we can't
function as a team when one of our members is struggling.
You can't come in stressed out because, you had an argument with your spouse and come in stressed out and worrying about that, and then be productive on shift. So you almost have to kind of work that out amongst one another. And
that's what I like, the freedom to work out, we'll do a lot of gags and jokes with one another. We'll, try to keep things as light as possible, because since there is a lot of seriousness, and there's more, some stations and some shifts do a little bit more shenanigans than other ones. I hope that doesn't go away, because I think if you're just coming to work and all you're doing is just running calls, it's going to be a very long career. There has to be in this job some sort of element of fun, release, something, because I think that's how you do kind of stay grounded. If you don't have those things, if you're just sitting there just running calls, man, it's monotonous. You're going to get burned out. You will not want to be going to work. And there's been times in my career that I'm like, I do not want to miss a single shift. I'm just having two. I mean, obviously we're having serious calls.
You're like, oh man, I got to go home.
But you do, but there was a time I'm like, I can't wait to go back to shift, because I was having so much fun. And
your belly hurts from laughing.
Wow.
Just the people that you're around, the stuff that you do. And creating an atmosphere, like that's where you want to be at, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, anything else you guys want to add to throw on the end there? I mean, we kind of touched on a lot, and I know I asked quite a few questions. I don't know if you want to sell anybody on becoming a firefighter, recruiting or anything like that, or
yeah, well, you know what? Actually, yeah. I mean, we do a lot of interview stuff at our station with guys who are trying to get on the job, and they talk about why you want to become a firefighter and the benefits of the job, and I think probably the biggest benefit that I've noticed, and not a lot of people talk about, is loving what you do. So, like Matt was saying, I just can't wait to get back to work. I mean, how many people can actually say that about what they do for a living? So I think firefighting is probably the most fun and interesting career you could ever get, and people love to see you show up.
Yeah.
I respect the heck out of cops, but man, people don't like seeing them show up to calls.
Usually, they're not there for.
They get just as much interesting stuff, but people don't always want to see them. But man, people love when we show up. We love going to work because of the people we work with. Yeah. And it's always different. Every single shift is a different calls and different experience. So it's a super rewarding career.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I wanted to do since I was a little kid. I mean, other than being a professional athlete, which I realized was going to wave bye-bye to me, a long time. But yeah, that was it, and probably a lot of it happened with my dad. I mean, it's funny, my dad never once pushed it on us at all. Like, it was just, hey, you want to come? Like, it was never like, hey, this is something you should do. I mean, like, to me, I knew with being a firefighter that I knew I'd never be rich, but I knew that my family was going to be well taken care of. Yeah. That it was a profession that, I feel like there is honor in it. You feel like, you can.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, so if you want a job where you can, work out, you can have fun, you can be serious, you can use, the skills that you learn to, I don't want to say actually make a difference, because a lot of jobs you can make a difference, but like this one, man, sometimes you're really making a difference in somebody's life. So, I mean, I love it. I'd do it again.
And what little kids don't like firefighters?
It's true.
You're out shopping and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, oh, they see the fire truck, and
Yeah, I had the same enamoration with the garbage truck too. So.
Well, that loses its glamour after a while, though.
But yeah,
I mean, it's a city job, though. It can't be bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you want some stability and benefits. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I knew that we're not going to be rich and wealthy, but I don't know. It's, you get to work with your hands, you get to be outside, you get to, I don't know.
Well, and like you said, problem solve too. You're using a lot of communication skills, a lot of critical thinking skills, a lot of kind of puzzle solving. How are we going to dissolve this situation, or resolve this conflict or whatever. So,
and another thing I like about it is the men and women, they normally have, they're kind of more, a lot of them seem to be go-getters. They're doing something else. Like, I know that when my dad got on, like, everybody had a side job. Yeah. I mean, like, so, like, people bring their vehicles, we'll work on the vehicles together. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times you get to evangelize too. Yeah. I mean, I get to, I don't have to worry. I pray before I eat my food. I can't tell you how many conversations have sparked just because I do that. Yeah. Oh wow. I did, just so, I don't know.
Dude, you're praying over your Raisin Bran. Well, yeah, let me tell you why.
So I don't know. I think, if you are looking to evangelize, you like people, you like, where, I think, it's a great job.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, and something I've kind of had in the back of my mind, and I appreciate you guys stopping by and talking about the highs and lows and funs and not so funs of being a firefighter. So, if you guys ever think of anything else you ever want to come on and talk about, and let me know.
I was going to say, what did you pull away from this? What did we tell you that you didn't think that you knew? Or
well, I know you guys, and I've talked to you about it before. So, I think the biggest thing is I'm actually surprised mostly just because of the way I think and the way my brain works or doesn't work. I'm actually really impressed and surprised at your guys' ability to have those kinds of calls not affect your life so much. and how you're able to kind of navigate that. Cause I know myself, and that there's no way I'd be able to do that. There's no way. So it definitely takes a special kind of person, and whether that's somebody that can be trained to do that, or whether that's something that's kind of just inherent in your personality, I don't know. But that to me is super impressive, because maybe I glamorize it and I sort of romanticize it a little bit, like the Chicago fire kind of thing, where, you come home and then you have all these issues at home because of your job, and you have all these issues at job because of, your home life. And I imagine that happens to some degree with certain people within the fire department, but for you guys to be able to just be like, yeah, I don't really think about those calls that much, to me is really impressive and somewhat surprising. I don't know. I would have thought it would have been a lot harder, but again, that's just my mind. I think I might internalize stuff maybe too much, or internalize it a lot more, but I guess it definitely, I don't know. Do you think that's something that can be trained, or is that something that it just kind of takes a natural mentality? You guys talked about your faith. Obviously that plays a big role in it, but I'm almost wondering if that's sort of almost like a natural defense mechanism too, where your brain's just like, nope, we're not gonna, we're gonna leave that part at work and we're gonna keep this part at home. I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know.
Do you always?
When I was a young firefighter, I had older guys talk about that. Like, you need to be able to be a dad and husband at home and be a fireman here, and you need to be able to separate those two a little bit so that you can function properly. I don't think I really understood what they meant until I had to do it for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it comes naturally a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're probably a little, maybe predisposed to personality, because people have, but I think for me, since my dad was on, I do a lot of ride-alongs, I got to see a lot of probably what a lot of other kids wouldn't have seen. Like, I remember, especially when my dad worked, there was a lot of gang violence, and a lot of one time one of the guys got stabbed in the head, and coming out, I think I was 7 years old, and you could see so, I don't know, I guess seeing that, there's a lot of bad things in this life, and if you can't move on and move past it.
And it doesn't seem like you get desensitized to it. It just seems like you sort of accept it, like, hey, the world is broken. Like, there's broken people in the world and there's people hurting. So
you're telling me.
It's not like you're immune to it or you're numb to it, but it's just sort of, you're like, that's a reality,
But you could have very well you could have two other firefighters on here that have been divorced, and that will tell you about how they want to leave the job. Because we do. I mean, not everybody, I know that not everybody's like Travis, that's upbeat, that's wants to come to work. So you're probably seeing a little bit more, you're seeing probably one side of, and people really are struggling with. I mean, there's a reason why we touched on a little on suicides. There's been a few different ones since we've been on, substance abuse, divorce. I mean, to me, you could make, and this is great and it's bad. You could make this job everything. Every single day that you're off, you could be doing something. There's baby shots. There is the medic. There's the captain. There's the engineer. There's TRT. There's hazmat. I mean, there's driver's training. There's our cat, there's so many different things you can do. And so you can start, how we had talked about already 1/3 of your life, you're gone from your family. Yeah. Well, you add another day on, 2/3 of your life, you're gone from your family. Yeah. And then you're doing something else. So it's very easy to completely wrap yourself all within it, where this is it, so I think.
And neglect the other important things in your life.
Yeah. So I think, and that's why it's important to have that balance and to have, kind of all three. And I think if you have all three of those, it's a lot easier to stay positive, stay motivated still, but if you start lacking in any of those areas, you start lacking your faith, you start having problems with your family, you start, whether it's yourself, you let yourself go, you're not staying in shape, if any of those fail, you're going to start having problems, and you're not going to have this, this man that I sit next to,
Aw.
Make me blush, dude.
Yeah.
I'm also very impressed with the mustache, by the way, Trev. Where's your cool guy firefighter mustache?
Oh,
He's got to earn his whiskers.
Yeah. How long got to be on for?
I don't know.
When did you start the stash?
10 years.
10 years you started the
I had
stash?
10 years on.
So I got 2 more, and then I can start.
Then
When did you start doing a little flavor saver?
This deal?
Yeah.
You know what? It just looked weird. It looked kind of like Creeper with just the lip hair, so I had to go with the bottom.
Yeah, and you thought that would make you look less.
Oh, yeah. I look way cooler now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I keep telling myself that every day.
Yeah.
So is that like an unwritten rule? Like you can't have a mustache until you're so many years on?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just being stupid.
I got you. I didn't know if it was like just kind of a ribbing kind of inside joke kind of thing.
Not at all. But I was going to say it would be interesting. I wonder how the Peoria guy would have had this conversation.
You know what?
If they're,
I don't know.
I tried to have him come on today. Yeah, Matt Bennett.
Yeah, I'll get him.
Those Peoria firemen, they're a little different. Like I said, this is another great one by my dad. We might all wear blue shirts, but we're not all the same. So
yeah.
Kind of leave it at that with Peoria firemen.
I'll get him on here one of these days. All right. Well, I don't know how long we've been going because for some reason it's
about 50 minutes. 50?
Minutes,
about 52.
Oh, okay.
About 52 minutes and 53 seconds.
Yeah. Some reason my timer started at a weird. I usually go about 45 minminutes to an hour. So,
okay.
Well, yeah. Thank you guys again. If you guys ever want to come on again, just text me or if you have like an idea, like, hey, I kind of want to talk about this. Maybe it'd be a good idea.
Oh, I thought we were gonna for sure get into some politics or something.
Oh, shoot.
Well, we can do that. We can definitely do that.
Yeah. Invest in real estate, finances,
that I can get
homeless.
Yeah.
We could go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
sure.
sure.
What I'm telling you, we could have the same conversation at the station. We're used to having these conversations.
Right. Yeah. And
we'll solve the problem. We'll solve all the world
problems.
World problems get solved every single day at the fire station.
And that's one thing I thought about too. You guys, I've heard you guys talk about different things that you've talked about at the station, and I'm like, you guys have that downtime to kind of converse with different people from all walks of life, and some of the good, the bad, and the ugly you've seen. So I'm like, obviously I want to be respectful of your guys' jobs and stuff like that, and I don't want you guys to be like, oh yeah, there was this one dude, that I don't want you guys to get in any trouble or anything like that. But just kind of talking about the ins and outs of what it's like to be a firefighter, because it's not like it is on TV, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
They dramatize it and romanticize it and glamorize it and all these other ISs, whatever word you want to attach to it. But alrighty, cool. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Colin.
Hey, Colin.